Hey there guys, Sam here with you. It's February 26th, we're middle of the day, and as I start every video, I remind you that I don't pick these, I let the members decide what they'd like to see get analysis. So by request here, I'm looking at USOIL. Now, of course, the advantage of trading in the CFD here, which I've got the CFD up here on FXCM, is we don't have the margin requirement to hold crude overnight, which is not insignificant. I personally would advise against holding futures overnight myself, right, without an option to hedge it. The biggest, let's see if I go back here, it was right here. The biggest loss I ever took in my entire trading career was, show it to you right here. So I was trading this in options. I took this trade here, all right, with an option spread, looking for that to go down. This was, I think that was military action here that fired that up here. Even though I was in a spread, the margin requirement became so high I had to get out of it and take a monster loss. Margin call. So you got to be careful about trading in crude, right? It's kind of the ultimate shit happens market. So just a word of caution when you're in here. It's extremely volatile. Now, as I remind you, with FX, with most markets, always better to go long, trade the longer term stuff. It's dull trading is what you want. Right? You don't want extremes here, and you can see the Elliott counts much more easily when you got to the longer term. So at the very least, you got to check the daily just to see where you are, to get some sense of perspective. You know, you get in here on the 1 hour and you're looking at this and you're like, oh, this looks all great, but you have absolutely no sense of perspective. So you absolutely have to get out to that daily to know where you are. So, oh shit, I guess I better wrap up my little quick review here, because we've been over this several times here. This pivot was put in October of 18, so we've done crude a few times. So just, beautiful 5, beautiful 3. The one thing I did note here, and I did the same thing over on Twitter, excuse me, I'm pulling from the 2. Now, you could use either one here. You could, well, there's a pivot that's even, if I can get it to load, that's higher, or you could use this. You could use the 1. Use the 1, well, you're in between, right? You don't quite make the 618. So I look at that and I always just out of curiosity. Then when I see that it's that perfect, that precise, clear pivot before we start down, pretty reasonable guesstimate here that an algorithm used that for the sell. You can see the reaction here at the 50, right? Got more legs and then they get the 618. So this algorithm that starts selling here is defending all the way up to this, right? It stops on the other side of 65. So with that move down, I think we've got a reasonable case for an ABC into that golden zone. So now it gets a little trickier here. So now I am going to go to the hourly. Here, I can pull that off. Oh, pardon me. Sorry, guys, I'm going too fast. Because I do it now twice on Twitter and over here, so I sort of occasionally forget what I've already done. So with this 5 to this golden zone, here's the thing that is worth noting. Look where that algorithm target is. $8. Is crude going to $8? Well, seems unlikely, doesn't it? Right? But what would we do down here? $26? Anything's possible here, but I wouldn't be, if I found myself on the short side here in a trade, I wouldn't be thinking, well, I'm going to ride it all the way down to $8. So that said, right, we're just acknowledging that that's there. Now let's go down to the hourly and dig into the count here, because there's a few things to learn here that I think could be helpful. So with this, yeah, we can take that off now. Okay, so coming out of this, right, so what do we care about? Well, for what's over here. So, but the reason that you want to work through this is to get some sense of where we are and where the probability zones are. Not that any count that you put up is the definitive count. You don't know until you see the next wave be completed. But right now, there's a reasonable estimate here that we've just done a 1, 2, 3, 4, and while it's possible the top is in here, it's certainly possible. The subdivision here supports the idea that the 4 is in. Interestingly, we've held here over this pivot, so there's certainly the potential for a kick up here to get the 5 of the 5th of what I'm proposing would be the A wave here. So off of this low, now it's a little tricky here. So what are you going to use? You know, is this the one? Is this the one? Well, so you always want to try and work backwards as you can. The first thing your eye should be looking for is where are the deepest retracements, because that's always going to be a bit of a tell. Where do I see any, you know, any areas where I get a perfect support resistance? You know, those are kind of what you're looking for, and you're always trying to incorporate what you're seeing. You want to look left here. Do I see anything? Well, interestingly, we can see all of this trading that took place right here, this whole zone. So thus the point of control is, you know, in the lower third of it. I guess we'd put it more like this, a little closer to the center of it here. And note here, as we come down in the retracement right to the point of control. Right, so market acceptance here, buyers take it up. So just a few little tidbits here. Now, what to use here, because you have this rather funky, you know, what? So we go. It looks like you've got to go 1 2 1 2. Now, how would you know? Well, you see, this ABC here. So if I label this, looks fairly solid. Looks like we can go A, B, and you'd have to do the C here. So hang on, getting ahead of myself. Okay, let's get that in. I wish you could change the degree before you put it on the chart. Note to TradingView for the suggestion box. Okay, so we go 1. It looks like we have all of this support here. So just pulling it, you're trying to figure out right now. We have the benefit of hindsight here, but if you're just trying to identify it for the purpose of trying to identify where we are now in the count, this action here is, you know, we've had these wicks that come through the 50 and we're holding. They keep getting rejected. Finally, we get the push up. Well, we certainly, this is not a candidate for a 3 before we get this pullback. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else you might have been thinking there? So we know we have a completed 5 coming down. So you're looking for a 1 2 of the A. So you get it. It's kind of ugly, and it looks like you've got a flat. Do I get 5? No, pardon me. It looks like I got a 5 3 5 coming down here. So look, we get a solid 2 here. But then this, and followed by that, is kind of, it was going to confuse you. So what is it? Well, if you were sitting right here after that price action, you know, it could be, you might at that point be questioning whether this was done down here. But if you've worked through the count, and you can see it 1 2. Well, it looks like 1 2 3 4 5 gets it done. So you have, well, let's see, any divergence here? Well, you've got some. So if we look here, you got a few things to get you thinking that, you know, you get deeply oversold in the RSI. It gets you thinking that this is a solid pivot. So it's not unreasonable to be thinking 1 2. Well, then you've got this price action. So it's, again, all you can do is start pulling the fibs and say, well, what is it most likely? Well, we break the golden zone. Note here. So, and crude is prone to do that, right? It trades technically, but on the shorter time frames, it's sloppy around the pivots. So it makes it very difficult to trade, particularly on shorter time frames. So, but it looks like we go 1 2 1 2. Now I get something that looks, you know, again, you wouldn't know, but as we blow through these levels here, now you're trying to identify. Well, is it 1 2? Are you at this point thinking, oh, I got one, oh, God damn it, come here. 1 2 3. Well, would that work? Well, you'd have 1 2, but then you've got 1 2, and it looks like 1 2 3 4 5 here. So it looks like this subdivision here. Oh, let's do the whole thing. Here, let me take that off here. I'll get it back again. So let's do it this way, as though you were trying to figure it out. So you might be thinking 1 2. Looks like you can get 3 4 5 right there. So it looks like you're done. There's the 4. So at this point, you're thinking 1 2. Again, you don't know what's coming. So you're thinking 3 over here. All right, so let's get that done. So you're thinking 3. So you'd pull here. Now, from the 2 to the 3, at that point in time, you have no reason to think anything else. So 1 2, I've got a completed impulse here for my 3 4 5. So it'd be very easy to think that was the 5. Let's look at it. So here's the pivot that you'd have to use. So you'd have to, it looks like you'd have to go, this would have to be your 4. So I probably should have done this That's all right. We'll get it figured out. Okay, so you'd be thinking 4 here. Trying to keep this off as though you wouldn't know. So then it looks like you may, at this point here, you're thinking, oh God, I should have moved these. Hang on, we'll get it. Oh, fuck. God, that's the most annoying feature of TradingView. If you do what I do. Okay, there we go. So now you're thinking, oh shit, I hit an algo target, I got a 5. So now you're looking for a retracement of the entire move. All right, so this is how you use these, just to help you identify what's likely coming next. Right? It's all just probabilities. You don't know. No one knows what's happening next. But here, we don't even make the 38. So are you thinking 1, 2 here? Probably not. And at that point, you'd be thinking, oh, well, this looks like the A, this is the B, and we're thinking that the 2 would be coming in down here. Well, you don't get it. You've got another push. So it would have been, if you were thinking on the short side, you could have easily thinking, oh, 1 A, B, I'm going down for the C. Well, if you did something like that, let's wick that off. Just for the exercise here. So maybe you sold it right here at that golden zone, thinking, oh, A, B, golden zone. Well, the risk is really moderate here. Of course, again, back to the advantage of the CFD, you don't have to take a full position there. You can take a half, a micro, a mini. So you can participate here. Now, if you take the stop on the other side of the 65, so if you sold it here, your risk is so small. That's just part of trading, right? You're wrong. Right? You think it's A, B, you go to the golden zone, it's all set up, it's ready to go down. You're thinking, oh, okay, down we go. And it doesn't happen. You get stopped out. That you might have been thinking right there. Maybe you're going to get second target, would put you between the 50 and the 618. Welcome to trading, guys, right? It all sets up perfectly. So what is that? That's a good trade that's a loser. Small loser, but that's kind of a distinction. You wouldn't be kicking yourself thinking, "Oh shit, what the hell was I thinking?" Right? Look where crude is now. I was dumb. No, you would have no way to know that. Right? That's just the reality of trading, right? So thus, my first assumption is assume you're wrong. So if you're able to enter that at the 618, maybe you have a slight front run, stop, you got to be disciplined with the stop. Right? So you take the hit, stopped out. Now, are you still thinking A, B? You might. But again, where's your entry? So now if you're really, for whatever reason, you're really bearish, you think, oh shit, man, I've got a completed impulse. I know what's coming. First, you do not know what's coming. Nobody knows what's coming. Okay, so you might be thinking, oh, boom, I'm going to try one more time. Well, you had a decent little move here. So if you, again, if you front run the 786 because you're determined to try and get that short because you think you know where you are, you take the 786 here, 54.60, let's call it. You got down to 53.11. Guys, right? Are you sad about that? Right? Yeah, sure. Maybe you're sad that you got stopped out, but that's a nice. Let's do it. Let's do the short position here. So you took it here. Do I have the short? Yeah. Okay. So stop on the other side of 786. You're after. We got down here. So that maybe you took it. Maybe you took a partial. I'd like to think you took some partial profit. That's 7.4 to 1. If you had that kind of a run down here off of this entry, I'd like to think that maybe there was a partial profit as you started to move off of that. That would be, just a suggestion. Always look to bank some if you've got a winner on your hands, and that's 100 ticks. You're already up. A little bank. Now move the stop to break even. All right, so you made some money. The break even stop gets triggered, and it keeps going. So now you know you were wrong in the thinking of A, B. This confirms it. Well, technically, that confirms it when you break out of that. So your A-B thinking is proven incorrect. Okay, so probably took a loser here. Again, maybe you took a partial. You probably got 54 to 53. You had a full point of profit right there. I'd like to think it. If you caught the pivot, because what you're trading off of is the reaction at the golden zone. You get 100 ticks ahead in crude. I'd like to think you tightened your stop up. So maybe you're at break even, took another stop. Same thing here. You're looking for a reaction at the 786. You get the reaction, but the market's too strong. Did you take a little profit? That's about money management. Okay, well, it keeps going. Now you absolutely know for sure that you're wrong. All right, let's get everything off here. All right, well, so you're thinking, well, okay, wait a minute. I thought I had this completed. Here, can't be done. What's the alternative? Well, now you got to work back through this and say, well, if I'm wrong about that, well, what happened here? So sorry. God darn it. It's just the worst allergens you can imagine here in Austin. They're just so bad. Never allergic to anything in my entire life. Here, I can't get through a day without it. Okay, so sorry, not to digress. Okay, so let's pull. What would be logical to pull from here? Am I going to pull from here? Well, I know I can just look at it and say that's going to be too deep. Am I going to pull from this 2? Let's go back to the broader 2. What'd I hit? 38. What is that most likely does that mean? If I've already pivoted here and this 5 is now is invalidated. So this count is invalidated at this moment in time. So you've got to be thinking, well, if that's going to be play as my 4, can I get a count that works here? Is there something else that could make sense? Well, everything has to be rethought. So you have to start moving things over. I do it all the time. Welcome to trading, right? Your first assumption is wrong. Well, if your money management was solid here, you're not wrecked off of that. You've taken a couple of losers, maybe a couple of scratches. So what's the lose? What's the loss? Opportunity costs, right? Because had you been looking, shit, I think this thing is still going. Well, bulls are making money. Bears, either scratching or getting small losers. Again, get used to it. So 1, 2. Well, now you got to start thinking, well, maybe I can use the fib relationships here to help guide me. Well, if that's my 1 and I'm correct about my 2, which seems reasonable, well, where could we be? Well, here's the high probability zone here for the 3 that may have been influencing that thinking, and that you had the 3 here. Can't be. So what's the alternative? Well, so here's about as far as they will go without a reaction. So, excuse me, we're not quite making it. We're kind of in between no man's land here, but I'm fairly confident at this point that I've got to rework this as an A, B, and I've got the C. So I get a zigzag here. You can see the A, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I get overlap? Yep. So you do. So you have an A, B, C for the 4. So now you got to rework it all. So up you go. So that becomes the 5 of the 3. This becomes more likely the 3. So this becomes the 3 of the 3 at the lower degree. So this has to move over. Well, does that make sense? Well, if you see it in here. Okay, so you open it up and say, well, shit, if that's going to be my 3rd, 4th, and 5th of the 3rd of this degree, well, let's take this up a degree. Let's go to micro, and then we'll take this one to subminuet. Okay, so would that make sense? Well, I can see I got a little 1, 2 here. Looks like I could go 3, 4, 5. So I've got the subdivision here to guide me in that. So if I think, okay, here, let me open it up so you can see it. All right, so would that work? Well, it looks like I could go 1, 2 here again. So now, again, going to a smaller degree. It looks like I can go 1, 2. Is that the 3? Probably. 4, 5. Kicker in the 5. Does that make sense? Well, it can't be. So this has to come over. This has to be over here. So this 3 has to be up here. So this 4 has to be down here. Now you're reassembling based on the price action that you're seeing. Well, 1, 2, 3, how would that work? What is that? Is that technical? There's the 1, there's the 2. Shit, man, I'm way beyond the 2, 6, 1, 8. So you've got to now work through another subdivision. Well, it looks like you could have to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll do it again. So you just keep layering these on. 2, 3, 4, 5. If you can find the subdivision, keep adding it. It'll only help you clarify and get more certainty over to what's come. As you start going through and nailing down all of these subdivisions, you start to get more confidence. Okay, I know where I am. Okay, I can see all the subdivision, 3, 4. I can probably get 1, 2. Shit, that's tight. 1, so I can get it. So you're here, you're going 1, 2, ugly, 3, 4, 5. At some point, right, they all break down. There's a point where you just can't get any more subdivision out of it. The more you can get, the better. So now I'm at 3, 4. Oh, I got my little 5. Not much of a 5, but then I fall over. So can I make it fit? Does it fit? Looking pretty solid right now. Oh, it's just going to plague me, that little bug. Okay, so here we go. Can I move it? All right, there we go. So now I've got this 3, 4, 5 of 3. Down we go. That's right at the 38. Shit, still going. Well, where are we? Where are we? Is that the 5? Do I have the subdivision here? Well, it sure looks like I can go 1, 2 again. So sorry, excuse me. What do I get? Is it technical? Yeah, well, you know, what else do you have to choose from here? Is this it? My guess is the better here. We don't quite make the 50. 3, right? We know the negative 100 is kind of a shorthand for that high probability zone for a 3. I get this. That looks like an A wave. Now, are we going to hold the pivot here? So let's take that off. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I'm going to just standard ops, I've got a 2, I've got a 3. I'm going to look for a fib relationship there. There's the 3. Here, sorry. Here's the 50 right here. I've got this structure. Pretty easy to spot. I can just looking left. I've got these prior swing pivots. Let's get them dialed right in. Okay, so boom. Got a little cluster, relates to prior resistance. Is that the support? A reasonable case for it. But now, does it look like an ABC? No, it really doesn't. So we go to the 15-minute. Now, here's the only reason you're going down here. Can I get a 5 out of this? Is that 4 done? Could this be A, B, C? Well, of course, yeah, it could be. You probably get that. Did we break that? Yeah, you could probably go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, so you'd have 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't look like it's done, does it? It looks more to me like we've got this going. Like this is the 1, that's the 2. We've done the 3. Here's the 4. Maybe there's one more kick down. Let's pull this off. This a little ugly, so that we're going to get a crude inventory report. Here's where crude gets dangerous, right? So you're going to get an inventory report. That's why you really, if you can avoid it, right? Unless you're digging out a count, you want to stay away from the shorter term stuff. Crude is notorious for doing the exact opposite of what the report would imply. Does it almost every time. It's notorious for it. So if this is the A, would that make sense? Well, that's an awfully big A. We're going to get a B and a C. Are we going to hold over the 1? So if we go into a diagonal, well, now you got to really rethink this. So sorry. A, B, C, 1, 2. Not great looking. So what we want to see here, we'd love to see, if you're trying to put the roadmap together, ideally you'd see that B kick a little higher. So the hope would be here. Now, is there trade? Well, I'd be waiting for something a little more solid to suggest that. Now, if I go down here, you know, I'm changing the entire structure because now I've got to think of this as a diagonal. So I got to rework this. This looks like you can go from here. You can get, looks like you can get 1, 2, 3, 4. Boy, that's an ugly 5. But is it technical? All right, so that's always the first question. Well, you throw some numbers on there. Well, was it technical? That might help identify what you have. Well, here's shit. Again, guys, I don't do these in advance. Okay, it's probably pretty obvious. Okay, so there from the 50, so we can see a straight algo play. Right, so we know what happened there, right? So an algorithm buys it, takes profit, right? How do you know? It's the reaction, not this. It's the reaction at the target. So we'll just fire it up. Let's see, how does it look? Does it keep going? All right, well, here's that tendency. It breaks by a couple of ticks, ultimately gets second target. It's volatile. All right, so if you were a buyer at the 618, right, you may have taken the stop there. It would have been a very small stop, but does it change the count? So if you're looking at that in that fifth wave, right, that's always the conundrum you have to deal with, right, if you're an Elliott trader. Well, it doesn't invalidate the count. Looks like you'd do it that way. Let's get that in a different color. Diagonal, right? So we overlap the 1, if that's the 1, right? So you'd have, that looks like, so you'd have to trade it as an ABC, ABC. Oh, fuck, that's a tough one. ABC, tricky. But again, it's what's most probable. So if this is all stacking up here, I've been able to work through all that subdivision. Most likely, this is a significant pivot at some degree. But is it the 5 of the 5 of the 5? Guess I got to go up a degree on that. Let's go to Minuet. Okay, so is that the 3 and the 5 is still to come? Well, how would we know? Right, here's the last pivot. If that's 1, 2, 3, 4, excuse me, let me get rid of that. So sorry. Okay, so let me go again. 1 through the 3. All right, where am I looking for the 4 in a diagonal? If I'm going to overlap this 1, I'm looking for at the 50. Well, that would do it. Right, so again, so the whole process here, the reason you go through all of that, when you're like, fuck, man, why do I have to do all that? All I care about is what's happening over here. No, guys, you want to go through all that. Well, one, it gives you a feel for the market. Working through all that subdivision, you start to get more confidence. Oh shit, I've worked through this whole thing at every degree. You're adding to the confidence of the next buy. Remember, right, in the methodology that we teach, you're buying something that's going down. You're selling something that's going up. So you better have confidence in your technical skills as you doing that, because that goes counter to emotionally what you're going to feel. Oh shit, man, this thing's screaming higher. I can't sell it. It's free falling. I don't care that it's at a 50. I can't buy it. Yeah. That's what makes trading hard. You got to do the opposite of what your emotions are naturally telling you. Right? You got to buy that 2. You got to buy that, you got to buy this 4. You got to buy that 2. Right? If you have confidence in your count, if you're like, oh shit, man, I'm not sure. I don't know. Shit, I better go check on Twitter. I better look around the internet, see if anybody else is buying down here. No, guys, that's not what you're after. You want independence. You want your own thinking to dictate this. Now, sure, an educational service like ours is going to teach you how to do this with confidence. It's not. I'm not trying to imply that it's easy. It's not easy, right? And you never know, and you're wrong more than you're right, right? That's the field you stepped on. That's the game you're playing. You have to know. I'd like to think if you're watching this, you know that you're going to be wrong more than you're right. Everybody is wrong more than they're right. Now, you can go on streaks, right, where you're right, one little, sure, you're going to have streaks. Streaks can make your year. But over time, shit, man, if your winning percentage is over 50%, you are having a tremendously successful career in the markets. Very, very hard to do it. And you think, well, shit, man, how hard can it be? It's going to go up or it's going to go down. What's so hard? Try it. You got to have something. You got to use something. You don't like Elliott Wave? Shit, I say this all the time. It's not mandatory. You don't have to use it. It helps. I would suggest that you do. Front run there. What'd they use? Let's tighten that up. Is that right there? I think it is. Let's tighten that up. Right? How about some market geometry? Oh, this Elliott Wave is bullshit. I hear it all the time. They're right under my videos. This Elliott Wave is bullshit. Right? You could go up, could go down. Might be this, might be that. I get them all the time. I don't like it. Don't use it. I'm always amazed people take the time to. It always surprises me. You put out content for people, it's free to consume, and they want to bitch about it or complain about what they're watching. It always surprises me. It makes me chuckle a little bit. It makes me think people with too much time on their hands. Okay, so what do we get here? So here, do we have a corner pocket? Well, shit, we blew right through the. You hit that. This 80% was realized quickly. Right, but is there anything else here? Well, is that failure to make the median line? That's mighty close. Mighty close. You know, you got 2 pivots down here. You might tweak them just a hair. You got 2 to choose from. Sometimes it'll be right next to it. If I go back 1 pivot, looks like they catch it just perfectly. And as I recall, let's see, where's this? Kind of in between. So just out of curiosity, if we take the length of that 1, project from the 2, well, we got the well, in between, a little bit in between. So you're at the 1272. More common for a C, but look how we do here. At the at this. We just bump into that resistance there. So here's the ping. So here's your, here's your return to the median line. So you got it multiple times. Look how nicely that framed the market here. Vegas wave catches it. Now, boom, there's the last kick. So again, if you don't know Elliott Wave or don't want to take the time or just think, it's bullshit, I don't know why people have to use that. It doesn't work. Crap. Shit, man, use something else. But you got to have some way to organize this. You got something you like better? Fuck, have at it, man. Wow, I could care less. But if you want to learn, we can help you learn to do this. It's not rocket science, but it takes time to. There's a lot of memorization. Oh, well, I know this and can't be that, and there's memorization. You're here to make money, right? So you're like, oh man, if I didn't want to work for it, you mean I got to work? I mean, how seriously are you taking it? Because you can come in here, particularly in FX, you can come in here and just gamble away, no problem. Again, it's going to go up or it's going to go down. Heads I buy, tails I sell. It's proven with good money management, you can make money doing that. Guys, 5% per month, if you can do that consistently, that's $1 million. So you take $500 at 5% with compounding, leave it in your account, you got $1 million in 7 years. Now, can you do 5% every month in, month out? Most can't, right? Because you can't, because you overtrade. You think, oh shit, I got my 5%. I'm gonna keep going. Maybe I can get 10%. Maybe I can get 20%. Take a loser. All right. Well, now you got to get back to trying to get 5% again. Another loser. Shit. Now my account's down by 35%. All I was after was 5% for this month. I had it and I kept going. That's what happens. Right, slow and steady. That wins the race over time in trading. Right, it's not swinging for the fence. If you get one that runs, count your lucky stars. Right, as I say often, the market gives reluctantly. It takes aggressively. All right, guys, back to you later.